was a father who pointed the family in the right direction. He led the family in worship. And dads, it is our responsibility to make sure that our family has a daily worship time, but also on Sunday, we find ourselves in the house of God. Isaiah 38:19, it says, the fathers were to pass on their knowledge and their experiences on to their children. The father to the children shall make known thy truth. And it's interesting in verse 17, when the prodigal son was there in the pigsty, and when he came to himself, his senses, some have said maybe he sobered up, maybe he'd been drunk the whole time. And then he sobered up and he remembered about his father. And he said, if you'll remember this, he says, I'll return to my father and I'll tell him that I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. And he said, but I will ask that he would forgive me. You see, when the studies have proven that when the father is an active believer and the children are taught at home to worship, and when they're brought to the house of God every Lord's Day for worship, and that they're raised in the nurture, the admonition of the Father and in the Word, 85% of those children remain active for the Lord. For those who do not have that worship time in the home and are brought occasionally to the house for worship, only 15% of those children remain active, serving the Lord. And so you see, fathers, we're to be the priest. We're to be the priest at our home and with our children. The fathers who, today, there's some have said that fathers spend less than 1 minute of time with their children, interacting with their children. And less than 20 minutes a day, 1 minute a day, less than 20 minutes a day, carrying on a conversation with our children. I don't know if you watch this program on television. We don't watch it real often, but just the other night we saw it. It's called 19 and Holding. It's the family in Arkansas that have 19 children. It's the Duggars, I think that is their name. And recently in this episode, the mother and father and baby, there's always a baby with 19, and the baby took a couple of the older children to New York City. They take them from time to time to New York City. They were going to be on television. They did not have a TV in the home. The older son was able to find a portable television, like a 12-inch television, and they set it up on a stool and had rabbit ears so they could see their mother and dad. They were going to be on The View, of all programs to be on. They were going to be on The View, and the children gathered around. And I thought how often we have let the television be the substitute for the interaction with our children. And so, dads, I want to ask you, to charge you today, give time to your children. Give each one of them individually. Now, I don't know how that father with 19, I don't know how he does it, but give time to your children. The fifth action of the prodigal father was he was the intercessor for the family. The father offered sacrifices for the family. The fathers need to be the intercessor in the family. If we don't pray for our family, who will? And when the prodigal came home, the father was watching for him. And that was an indication to me that that father, every day when that son was away, he was praying for him. he went to the road, he would look down the road, and he would see, if he could see the image of that wayward son returning home. He'd been interceding for his son to return home. Do your children know that you're praying for them? Pray for them not only when they're in your presence, but also pray for them when they're away. When your children are grown, there's at that point in time, your teaching pretty much stops. You can give counsel and advice if they come to you, but for you to interfere with them, I think is a mistake. I'm not called upon to do many weddings. In fact, I really don't enjoy weddings, but my wife loves weddings, and so I go to weddings because I love my wife. We were vacationing in Nashville, Tennessee years ago. We were in the hotel, a huge hotel. We were on the second level, and we could see down on the first floor, and they were having a wedding. And there was an important baseball game on, and I wanted to watch the game, and my wife wanted to go to the wedding, so we compromised. I turned the volume down, and she sat in the chair in the doorway, and she watched the wedding. And when the pastor pronounced them man and wife, and they kissed, and the recessional, and he said, now everyone is invited to the reception. And Betty said, let's go. And I said, I don't think we're part of that everyone that's being invited to the reception. But there are only two reasons I will not conduct a wedding. I will not conduct a wedding where both parents are not in agreement that the wedding should take place. And you say, it's not up to them. They're not the ones to make the decision. Probably the second or third wedding that I did, the mother of the bride came to me and said, I'm against this wedding. They should not get married, and I'm going to do everything I can to discourage them from getting married. And I was not smart enough or mature enough at that point in time to realize she would do everything within her power to destroy that marriage. And she did. And so I said, from that point forward, I will not do a wedding where both parents are not in agreement that this is the thing that should happen. Because it is so important that we now, once the children are gone, it's so important that we become the prayer warriors for them and to intercede on their behalf every day. So we're to be the fathers, we're to be the intercessors. The sixth action was that he did not condemn or judge his son. Now, there are times when our children do things that we're not at all pleased with or happy with. But make sure that you condemn the action and not the child. The prodigal came home with a repentant heart. He was truly sorry for the actions, and he was not looking to be restored even as a son. He wanted to come home and for his dad to treat him as one of the hired servants. But the dad's attitude was that this is my son, and I will restore him the right relationship with the family. In verse number 20, it says that he had compassion on his son. And men, we need to be men of compassion.